I am the 13th Wolfman, and this is my... And the people over at VCI Entertainment were nice to send over Psychotronica, the collector set. This is Volume 2 that I'm going to be reviewing here. And Volume 2 has Mondo, Keyhole, and the Raw ones. Now let's start with Mondo Keyhole. Mondo Keyhole is a movie made in 1966 about a guy that's married to a woman that wants nothing more but for her to be loved by her man. And the man himself is basically, he can't love his wife because he doesn't see himself as a good person anymore because he's a rapist. He just goes out and willfully rapes women left and right. And doesn't get caught because the women are too scared to say anything to the cops or the authorities or anything like that, So he gets away with it. He's also the owner of, in the 1960s, to put out stuff like Playboy and magazines that were a little more hardcore, you had to package them in brown bags and mark on them, whatever, something else rather than what they were. But the post office found it obscene to use their facilities to transfer your smut, and he owns a company that puts out like Playboy and puts out stag films and records of just weird records of sounds of torture and stuff like that. So he owns that kind of company, and they even mention the fact that the post office is always complaining. This movie overall, I like this movie, but the last 20... There's a party scene in this movie. And this movie goes along fine up until they get to this party. And then it just kind of like gets stagnant and doesn't feel like it really goes anywhere. Because you're in this party scene for, like, I say a good 10 to 15, maybe 20 minutes, and you're just going, I'm over it already, we could move on, and it doesn't seem like it gets to, I'm ready to move on, but they're ready to keep me around at this party scene for as long as they want. It feels a lot like a lot of filler, like they put it in there just to make sure that the movie ran longer than an hour. So, this movie I'd give the story up until the party scene, I would say was, it was a good movie, but after that, so that diminishes the chainsaw rating. I will give it 2.25 chainsaws, just because that party scene just kind of, to me, it just left you wanting them to get out of there a lot faster. So 2.25 chainsaws for that. Next up is the Raw ones, which in the 1950s you could make films with nudity in them as long as they were sunbathing films. They weren't allowed nudity in major motion pictures until the 1960s. Well, unless you go back before the Hays Code, in the 1930s. Before 1932, when the Hays Codes went into effect, there were some movies like Tarzan. There's a scene where Jane gets naked, but there were movies back then that, you could talk about, before the Hays Code, you could talk about nudity, you could show nudity, you could talk about drugs, but after that, it wasn't allowed. Until the 1960s. So here we have what's called, in the 1950s, when they shot these sunbathing films, they were referred to as nudie cuties. And that's what this is. This is an hour and, oh my god. It's over an hour. It was made in 1950. What year was it? And I should do whatever. It's made in the 1950s, and it's a nudie cutie, and you get to watch them You get to watch naked women and men, schmeckles, boobs, everything, you know, jumping rope, playing volleyball, you know, just wandering around this giant nudist colony, you know, sunbathing, playing tennis, sailing, all together, you know, in the raw. And it's an okay film, if that's what you're looking for. I mean, I'll give it 2.5 chainsaws out of 4. You know, like I said, it's a nudie cutie. So that's the whole thing for this movie to exist, is just to show naked people. So if I combine the two scores together, it's a volume 2 is a 2.25 to 2.5 chainsaw volume. I say, I say, you know, if you want to check it out, the raw ones is interesting. The MONDO KEYHOLE is interesting up to a point. I mean, who knows? Someone else might find it to be a little more interesting than I do. So, but yeah. So I will leave the link to VCI Entertainment below. You can go there. You can see what they have. You can check it out. They have a ton of movies. They have a ton of films that it seems kind of get forgotten. You know, so I say go there, check them out, see what they got. They have them all categorized, sci-fi, horror, whatever. VCI Entertainment. I'm the 13th Wolfman. I'm on the prowl.